Hi, welcome to this third and last part of this three-part tutorial about creating content 3D modeling in Blender and to make it ready for import inside a game engine like Unity and Unreal Engine. Okay, in the last lesson I explained a lot more about how you can model stuff like this and how you can then use the sculpt tools as well, so you can actually start making content with the tools I just provided. And I'm going to focus on texture mapping on this lesson because this is a very important um, uh, side of this flow you need to follow from content to the game engine. Um, I'm going to show you how uh, the the mapping works in much more detail in this lesson. So we have this cube here, and I did this. I'll redo that again. I'll take this corner here and drag in another window, and I'm gonna do that the same here on the bottom. So I've got a couple of windows, 3 windows. One of these windows I'm gonna make this a little bit smaller, like that. And I'm going to put this to rendered shading. Okay. Another thing we're gonna do, we worked with Blender render, but we're gonna go with Cycles render. Cycles render delivers much better results than the Blender render. The Blender render is faster, but the Cycles render is much better. And also the Cycles renders has the node editor option, and that is also very nice to visually program your shaders. And that is possible with the Cycles render. So I switched to Cycles render, and you can immediately see that it works differently. This is the render of the image we have now. This is the default image. It doesn't look that great, but we're gonna change options in order to make it a much better rendering of the object. Okay, this cube here, I want to show you how it works with unwrapping a cube. Let me show you 2 examples. I've got Shift A. I'm going to add a cylinder again to show you how these 2 objects can be rendered differently. In order to get my so I'll start with the cube, and I'll press Tab to go into edit mode. I'll press U to Smart UV project. Okay, and now it was Smart UV projected. And how can I see that? I can see that in the bottom here. I can go to this button here, and I go to UV image editor. And here we have this cube UV unwrapped. It did it smartly. That means it took all the size of the cube and tried to flatten it as good as possible. So if we would now have content in here, this content would then be projected on this cube. But first we need to have some. I'm going to close this pane here by pressing T. There we go. So we have more space available. I can shift it a bit so we have this, and now I can do this. And also here, this is same pane. I can press T and it's gone. Okay, I can go to this mouse to this button here, and there is already a material supplied. There's a diffuse color. It's white. Let's make it a bit more interesting by changing the diffuse color to red. Okay, so now it's red. The rendering also is red. And if I look at this here, also you see the faces are red. I can press Tab in this window, move the mouse over this window, press Tab, go to the cylinder, and also press New. New material will make the cylinder green. Okay, this is a diffuse shader. Like I said in the previous video, diffuse is just minor reflectivity. It only shows the color. If you shine light on it, it'll show the color. It would not reflect a lot. Actually, it wouldn't reflect much at all. Just the color information you would get. So, if we want to change this, let me see here and here. So that's funny. It renders green. You can also move about in the scene with the middle mouse button. So you can, there's an actual render of the scene, so you know the quality of the scene. I'm going to add some lights. This light I'm going to duplicate, Shift D, and put it here, Shift D, put it there, Shift D, put it there again, and then move it slightly over to the other side. And this one I'm going to move in and do another one, Shift D. So that's the easy setup for me. I'm also going to add a plane, Shift A, plane, and I'm going to move it down and then scale it up really big. All right, now we got a nice scene with lighting and with the shadows, and that's what we want. I'll make one lamp really intense. I clicked it here, and I'm gonna use, let me see the custom, where is the intensity, the size, that's the lamp size. Just increase it a bit, and let's go to the box. This box has been, if I press tab, you see the unwrapping of the box. Okay, this went fairly well. You can also, if you want to add your own, so this was done by Blender itself in order to get from there to there. So it tried to be as intelligently as possible. But sometimes you would have faces. I will just generate quickly some extra geometry. I'll add it here and here. I'll add it here. If all is well, you would know how to do this now. I'll add some extra geometry by Control Tab, go to face mode and get one of these faces. Actually, let's make it 2, Shift, select, and then E, extrude. So now, you see, if I now press Tab and edit tab, I'm in edit mode with this object, and I'll press AA to select everything. You see that it tried to be as smart as possible by, this is not working. This is the older UV unwrapping. I have to press U, and if I press UV, U unwrap again, this is what it makes of it. So you can also do smart UV project. Press U and then smart UV project. And there we go. This is much better. So now this looks like it can looks like a nice projection. So this is all UV wrapping means. You have to somehow get a 2D image projected on this object, and this is how it's unwrapped. Okay. I got to tell you one more thing. You can also determine your own way of unwrapping, and that's how I'm going to look at this one here. So I'm going to, in object mode, press tab, go to this object here, select it by pressing left, and then go in tab in the edit mode. And now I can press U, unwrap. So this is a completely unusable unwrapping because it's all stacked together. It doesn't do much as you would like to be. So I press U, Smart UV Project, and now it does this. But this is also not optimal. Look at this. These are the two, the bottom and the top sides, and these are the little bands, so you will, of the cylinder. And it was not, this is not done very well. You can do this in your own way. So you can decide, you can give the cuts the Blender needs to follow in order to tell Blender how to cut it up. So before we can do this, I am still in edit mode. I can press Control Tab to go to edge mode selection, and I'll press this edge and this edge and this edge and this, but I have got a nice selection for this. I need to select all these edges around this face here. I can go to select and then go to edge loops. So here, and then shift, select this edge, and then Shift, select this edge, and then also select edge loops. So once I have these, the top and the bottom, and one of these, I can now Control E for edge options, and I can say mark seam. Bam. Mark seam. So now I'm telling Blender to just cut it in 1, 2, 3 pieces. If we now do U unwrap, oh, I have to select all the vertices. Yes. So AA, select them all, U unwrap. And now you've got a much cleaner cut for the UV unwrap. So now this could be an image, and these are the top and the bottom parts. So this is a much better UV unwrapped object. So you can mark your own seams. If you want to get rid of the seams, press AA, and then you go to Control E, and you can say clear seam. So then it's removed. You can also do that with the cube. I leave that as an exercise for you. So by the Shift A, get a cube in there. There it is. And oh, put it here. And if I would now, okay, now it's in one object. So that's the reason. I'm still, it happened even to me. If I would Shift A inside this cylinder, it becomes part of the cylinder. I don't want that. I need to get out of edit mode, tab. Now I'm in object mode, and I need to deselect everything. I press A to deselect everything. So now if I enter a cube, a mesh, cube, now, oh, I didn't, that's not Shift A. So deselect everything, Shift A, mesh, cube. Here we go. And now this cube, if you do tab to go into edit mode, U, and then unwrap, this is not okay. So try to find, it's an exercise, try to define the seams, how you can cut this piece of this cube, how you can cut it up so that it is properly so the seams are properly done. So it is much better to have it UV unwrapped. So I can give you a slight hint. Go Control Tab, go to Edge, and then start with these edges here, and then down, and then all the way to back. Mark them as a seam, Control E, and then mark seam, and then do the unwrap, and you can see on this window here if you did okay. So for now, I'm gonna leave it like that. I'm gonna give it, why not put it in the scene somewhere in the back, and I'm gonna give it some new material with a light of a bit of pink. Why not? Okay. So how now can we use I talked in the last lesson about specular lighting, and in this lesson I want to talk to you about using nodes, the node editor, in the cycles render mode, for instance on this object here. If I want to change something in the rendering here, I've got the diffuse colors, use nodes. I'm going to click use nodes here, and then you're going to see, if I get to this bottom here, and I'm going to get the node editor here. That's it, node editor. If you have any questions regarding all this material, you can just ask the workshop leader. This node editor here, you can see here it's the diffuse BSDF. It's the diffuse shader. It has the color red, and it's connected. The output is connected to the surface of the material. All right, that sounds reasonable. You can change the color here. So let's make it yellow. So now it's yellow. So this color here is, I changed it in here. I want to get some more specular highlights. So I want to have it more reflecting light more. You can do that in the node editor. I can go to add shader, and for this I need a mix shader, and a mix shader does just that. it let me show you a trick you can use. So if you've got this, then you can move the mix shader between the two blocks like that, and you see a highlight there. When I let go, it's automatically connected. But there's another input here for another shader. So we've got the diffuse shader, so that's just only showing the color of the object. And now I'm gonna add another shader. You can combine as much as you want. I'm going for a glossy shader. And a glossy shader is a reflective shader. So I'm going to put that in there. And as you can see here, I can zoom in, you can see that it's reflecting the light of the lamp much more than it does. If I select it, I can disconnect it by clicking it and then dragging it off. No highlights. So now it's reflective again. It reflects parts of the light, and you can see that as a white highlight here. This is a way to give shininess to surfaces. So now you know how to color surfaces, but you can also give parts of the surface shininess by adding a glossy shader next to a mix shader, so the material comes out as here, as what you see here. Okay, what I want to do now is use an image for the cylinder to texture the cylinder. In order to do that, I'm selecting the cylinder, and it's green now. It has a diffuse shader, and as you can see, the node editor only shows. You can zoom in and out, and you can drag stuff around, and you can make connections. So in the node editor, this shader says green. It's diffuse. It's not specular. But that's okay. I'm gonna add an image to this cylinder here, and for that I go to this little button here. Actually, I need to go to the color here, and first, now one step back, I need a texture. So what I did, I went to cgtextures.com. Yes, you can go there, but you need to log in, and then you can get all these textures for free. I didn't log on this one. I got another one on meijang.com, and these are also free. It has a little thingy here, but just for the tutorial, that's okay. I want to use this as my texture for the cylinder. Why not? So I press right mouse button, save image as, that's what it says here for the people not speaking Dutch. I'm gonna save it at my downloads directory, and it's called bricks scratched. Okay, so now I want to add a material here, new image or movie, and I'm going to go to open, and I have to go to downloads, and I already downloaded it. It's here, bricks scratched, open image. Here we go. So I only put this texture in. Now I need to tell the shader to not only shade the color, but use a texture. So I press this button here on the right, and I put an image texture in. And what image texture? The one we just did. So bricks scratched. So if you did all this, you will see here, this view here, you will see this as a texture. Right on. So this has been textured. So let's go to the to this window here. Move over the mouse over this window. Press Tab, and let's go to our little node editor. Oh, I mean not node, UV image map. So it's now textured like that, but I don't want this. I want the texture to be happening on this one. So I can select, so now there's nothing there. I can select this scratch one here, and now I can decide how this is being textured. So if I would press A, if I just press A, everything will be deselected. And suppose I only want these edges here, for instance, I can move them. I box selected them with B, and then move them, press G. So I can move them, And you can see the top, you can see the changing of the image projection. I'm just doing this to show you how that is done. So it projects all this image, all these images, it projects in here. So now I've got a bunch of this that one, the purple one here. Okay, so this box here, let me, oh wait, tab, and then select all. Said select it, and then tab, and then select all. There we go. Here we have it. So now I can use this as my diffuse map, because it's only a diffuse shader. To get more, you can even in Blender you can edit this map. So let's try that. You can try this map here. If we would, it's not tab UV project, right, like that, and it's not doing that. Why is it not doing that? Now what I want to do is get some baking done, because I want this top side here, the bottom. You can see all these splashes of light and shades, and if I, for instance, would change this to go up a bit, and this to go like that a bit and a bit up, you would see the shadows. And I want to explain something about these shadows, because this plane here, it only this light that has been casted and it drops shadows on this floor here. I want to generate a texture for this floor, so the light is baked, the light information is baked inside this texture. It's a difficult story to tell, but this, what we see here, if you have this in an engine, the engine needs to calculate every time how the shade, these shadows are being projected on the floor. And if you bake it into in an image and then use that image as the light baked texture for the ground, then you would have a big performance gain. So I tell this because you need this in a game engine. You need to have the best performance. And if you don't have moving objects, because suppose these are static, so the player in a 3D world, for instance, would just follow along this path. The shadows being cast are by static lights, and then you can just bake this information into the texture for the ground. I'm going to show you how you can do that. So, alright, I kind of figured it out. What I need to do is just, I deleted the plane, which I want to bake the textures on. And I'm just going to add a new plane like that, scale it up. There you go. And as you can see, there's a lot of information from the lights casting from this one, there, and there, and there. And now I want to bake this information, this light information, into this plane here. So in order to do that, I'm going to switch my view here. Oh, I need to go to this is the node editor. Let's go to the UV image editor and change this one to the 3D view. Okay, already got that. I need to get it to solid. I need to select I need to select the floor. And what happened here, I can just add a new image. This is called the ground floor baked finally, I'll call it. And then make sure that the generator type is blank, and the size and the width is the width and the height is okay. Just press OK. It's blank. So now I press this, the bottom, this plane here. I selected an object mode. Press Tab. Press U. and then unwrap, and here we have it. Maybe smart UV project, why not? And then it has the same thing. We can now go to, if you need to have the node editor open, you press new, and then this adds this as a default. Oh, here we go. The fuse, the color is okay, and stuff like that. Let me just see how it looks now. So let's go to the view for rendered, and this is how it looks now. Okay, let's go back to solid. We need to add texture, image texture. Here we go. And we need the ground floor baked. We need to ground floor baked finally. We need to add that. And we need to select it in order to make it active. And then go to this camera here. And then all the way on the bottom, there is this bake. And then we can just press bake. Texture bake. It's baking, baking, baking. And finally, we have our baked image here. Okay, one more thing. If you think that this is all the light information from the renderer, if you want to use this as a texture for the ground floor, you might think, okay, why not just do this and then put it in the surface, and then we don't need this diffuse BSDF. But if you would now check out the, here we go again. The rendered view, it's totally black. What we need to do here is add something in the middle, because it doesn't give light. Now it will. So I go to shader, add shader, and then we need a emission shader. And if you see, you can just put it there and then connect, but you can also put it here. You see the highlight? Just put it between these two, and then bam, it automatically connects. So now it's using this texture, this one here, as an emission in the emission shader, and it emits this texture. So now you have a huge performance gain inside the game engine, because it doesn't need to render all these lights and these shadows, etc. One disadvantage of this is this. Okay, we go to oh no, let's do this. Let's go to the 3D view here, and why not go, okay, I'm in the edit mode, press tab for go in object mode. Let's move this cube, and here you see what happens. This is the so if it is a moving thing inside your game engine, then this won't work. This can give you huge performance gains, but it's baked into the texture. All the light information is baked into the texture at the moment, and you can see even the bleeding of the purple here. It's a little bit purple on the side, but this is what happens. So it's a static texture. So if you move something or the lighting changes, then this is not a good thing to use. But if you have static objects, you can just bake these textures, and you'll have such a nice performance game, because the game engine only needs to display this. All right, so let's, in the final pass, we did a lot of ground. We covered a lot of ground and a lot of, not a lot of time. You can export this. Why not select this, this, and this with Shift, or why not box select everything, and then go to File, Export, FBX. Yes, File, Export, FBX. And only selected objects. Export FBX, only selected objects. And then we can go to final export. It's in documents. Export FBX. Let's see how this imports inside Unity. Game object, import new asset. Final export FBX. Here we have it. All right. So if I would now put it inside here, I would see what it consists of all these objects. And this, you can select between the objects. And this one here, the plane, it has a standard shader. And what we need to do is get that that map here, that one here. I need to plus, here we go. So I need to go to UV image editor. I need to save this image. Save as image. I can go to documents and then this ground floor baked final. Save as image. Okay, I go to Unity. I'm going to import that asset. Import new asset. Ground floor baked finally. Okay, just import it. And then we're gonna select this floor here. Now it's selected, the plane. It uses the same names as well, so that's great. Okay, I've got all these maps. I can just push this one into the emission map. And if it should, global elimination, baked. It should display properly, and it does. You can see here some kind of information here at the spot and here. It's no, I cannot put it there. So maybe the shader doesn't work like that. Let's try something else. Let's put it on albedo. Here we go. Here we go. It works differently. So I can delete this. None. I can select none. And okay, so I still need the emission. Okay, now I get it. So here it is. Here is our baked texture for the floor. The Unity engine doesn't need to think about rendering this with this light. This is also dynamic. Sorry. Okay. So this is how you can do this. It still has some work to do before you get all these different maps, but the thing is that you have the knowledge in place to get, for instance, for the plane, in the shaders you can drop it at the specific map slot, and it seems to work at albedo and emission. It doesn't really look that it doesn't really resemble it, but it proves what you can do. Here it is. It's still this texture, but it's a bit it's a bit too much light anyway. But now you can see how you can do that. And this is one of the most important flows you're going to do with Blender and Unity, and also with the Unreal Engine, but it has the same, it is almost the same. And this is how you can build stuff in Blender, import in Unity, have all the texture maps baked, and then you have a very fast game engine. Okay, I hope you enjoyed these tutorials, these video tutorials. I suggest you leave feedback about the tutorials themselves at the end of the workshop, so we can improve on the quality of these video workshops. And that's it.